John, we've talked about your new book, The Other You. I guess as an author, and I know you reasonably well, you're always at it. So where are you with your next project?
Well, I'm about a third of the way through the next project. It doesn't have a title yet. It's another J S Monroe book. So on my computer, it's just known as J S Monroe 4 at the moment, because it's the fourth J S Monroe psychological thriller. It's the third one to feature Silas Hart, our head of Swindon CID, and his sidekick Strover, who is a young female detective who he's kind of bringing her on. And both those characters become more important in terms of the book structure. D.I. Silas Hart is still quite grumpy, trying to do the right thing. He's got back with his wife, having been estranged from her. He's going to yoga classes, trying to sort of, improve himself. He's still grumpy about the lack of a private office at Gablecross Police Station. They all have to hang out in the parade room, which is all open plan. He has to sit where he can each day. So he's still his old sort of slightly grumpy self. And Strover is this young female woman from Bristol, and she's kind of quite, she's full of surprises. She knows a lot of things which surprise the slightly old school Silas. She's particularly hot on cars. She knows a lot about science, particularly. She's very genned up on a lot of things. She does a lot of reading. She's sort of keeping Silas on his toes. And the new book, the core of it, really, I don't want to give too much away, but it kind of opens with, I've always wanted to write about crop circles after visiting the new Crop Circle Information Centre at Honey Street. And it doesn't open, but in the opening part of the book, there's a series of crop circles that appear, which the pattern seems to be a formula for antipsychotic drugs made up of a series of hexagons. The molecular structure they seem to reflect. A lot of these crop circles do have a lot of interesting mathematical patterns and theories behind them. But what makes it a case for Silas Hart, his boss rings him and says, I want you to investigate these crop circles. And he says, you are taking the mickey. I'm not going to go and investigate something like that. I'm a serious detective. But it then turns out that 3 bodies have been found in the center of each of these crop circles. 2 of them are dead. One's wearing a straitjacket. One, it turns out, when they do an autopsy, has had a lobotomy. And the 3rd body is just alive. And this is I've just been writing the scene where he goes to investigate this on a moonlit night in the rolling hills of the Pewsey Vale. And it's a pretty scary scene to write, actually, because he thinks there's another dead body. Then he realizes this body is incredibly cold, but it's just alive. And when they do the tests on him, they discover in his bloodstream there's a particular drug that comes from the pufferfish. And it turns out that was used by as part of a voodoo preparation in Haiti to induce a state of zombieism. So it's another message. There's someone in a straitjacket, there's someone who's had a lobotomy, and the 3rd victim is technically a zombie to all intents and purposes. So what the hell does this mean? And why is it linked with each one is set in a different crop circle and it's a different formula for an antipsychotic drug? What's going on? So it's kind of it's a pretty dark start, and I do know where it's going to end up, and but it's great fun to write. And I'm just kind of doing that thing where I feel I'm slightly ahead of the reader as I'm writing it, but not much ahead. And a lot of it takes place in and around Porton Down. I've been exploring Porton Down and what goes on there. There's going to be a link with COVID-19, but the main kind of also theme about it is how people delude themselves and buy into conspiracy theories. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but I'm really enjoying writing it and scaring myself at the moment.
Sounds good. Look forward to that. Your books are always very well researched. So I guess it's an obvious answer at the minute because you can't get out and about. So clearly you research online. How much time would you say you spend researching when you're writing one of your novels?
Well, I think if you look at the terms of a book in a year cycle, I spend first 3 months thinking up the idea, writing a file. I have a file always set up, which I just write lots of notes on, and I cut and paste a lot of stuff I find, academic research on the subjects I'm interested in. So in this particular case, the dangers of long-term use of antipsychotic medication. I'm also researching Porton Down, and there's a lot about Porton Down. It's a very secret military research establishment, but there's also a lot of efforts by DSTL, who are the people who run it, to make themselves more accessible and more open in the modern era. So there's a lot of staff, they have their own YouTube channel. You can see young scientists talking about the work they do at Porton Down. That's been really interesting, trying to get a flavour of the sort of people who work there. And so I would say 3 months of that, 6 months of the writing, and then 3 months of serious editing with my editor and copy editor. So that's so yes, they do require a lot of research. And it's quite weird talking to you now because I haven't talked to anyone about this book yet. You're the first person I've mentioned bodies in crop circles to, apart from my wife, who I've talked briefly about it. And she always tells me I've got a sick, dark brain and stop. Why don't I write a nice book? But anyway, it's good to talk about it, actually, because it makes me realize how excited I am about the subject.
Fantastic. And so your plan is to finish that towards the end of this year?
I have to finish the writing of it by June.
By June. So the book will be finished and edited by the end of the year. That's one of the silver linings of this awful pandemic cloud, is that I'm just sitting here writing, and there's no excuse really. I can't go out. So it's kind of, the writer's life is quite isolating anyway, but the pandemic has certainly given me no excuses. I have to write. So yeah, I'm doing a minimum of 1,000 words a day at the moment. That's my target. And so I write 1,000 words, sometimes more than that. I think if I go over 2,000, I tend to find myself deleting a lot of it the next day. So I aim for 1,000 words, and then I'll edit that in the morning the next day, and then write another fresh 1,000 words. So I'm pushing forwards. In my mind, I always think about 80,000 words for a book. The other year was a lot longer than that, but I think the new one is going to be slightly shorter than that. So I'm aiming my mind for 80,000 words. Well, good luck with that, John. Thanks very much for talking with us. And perhaps we'll speak with you a little bit nearer the time that you finish your book, not to give too much away, but to hear how the process has gone.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to that.